What's going on, guys? What's going on? SombraDelPiso back once again with yet another video. What we're going to talk about today is something interesting. I have like similar talking points for all my videos. It's actually kind of scary. Yesterday, we had a really good live stream. Of course, the channel talks about men's mental health, men's sexual health, semen retention specifically. And I've, started to talk a lot about travel as well. So, within the travel aspect of the channel, the live stream yesterday was sort of a spill-off of that. We have this this beautifully delusional mod in the live streams. A good friend of mine, Horizon. Right, this guy lives in Michigan. He believes that Michigan, the land of Michigan, is like similar to Xanadu or maybe Paraíso in the Divine Comedy, or like Paradise. This guy will never stop talking talking about the strengths of Michigan. Last night, the live stream was about northern Michigan being apparently the best summer vacation spot in the world. For the people that's traveled, and of course, I'm glad I had we had Christopher, one of my mi hermanos, in the goddamn live stream too, just positing some really good points. For the guys that have never traveled outside of the United States, yes, maybe that would seem like the best summer vacation spot in the world. But I think anyone with a modicum of sense and an internet connection will instantly figure out that places like northern Michigan, Mackinac, whatever that those places are inside that blasted state, compares or is pale in comparison to summertime in Montenegro, for example, or south of Albania, or Greece, or south of Italy, or Portugal, or south of France, or South America. Like, it's just, you can't compare anywhere in the United States to these places. Anyway, that's not the point of this video. The point of the video, I brought that up because I just wanted to talk about how beautiful the conversation was last night, because I just didn't know that northern Michigan was known for its cherry pie. I'm not a pie guy just because it's a lot of sugar, and I just tend to stay away from refined sugar. But if I ever find myself in the apocalyptic situation of residing in northern Michigan for a temporary period of time, okay, fair enough, I'll get a slice of cherry pie. But I want to talk about today something interesting, because we're going to get a little bit more metaphysical now. So like, comment, subscribe. Let's get right into it. This is my third week in a row sleeping in this new place. I have, for the guys that don't know, I moved somewhere else in Brooklyn. I have a new apartment. It's been interesting. We had Supreme in the live stream the other day when we were in Brighton Beach telling us, oh, it's going to be very, very hard to stay on semen retention in that apartment. And I'm just like, no, it's not. It's going to be very easy. In fact, it's been very easy thus far. I've been about semen retention for a very long time. And I'm just really not into the whole hookup thing, because I just understand really what's at stake karmically and just spiritually. And I'm just not willing to trade weeks and weeks of reparations and reconciliation with the self after exposing yourself to a woman that's not necessarily compatible with you just for a moment's release. I just don't think that that's worth it. I think that a lot of you guys should start seeing the sexual experience like that as well, especially within the realm of self-pleasure and looking at adult film content to achieve pleasure through that. And so, I've been on the practice for this current streak for a very, very, very long time. I have a video that I just spoke about where I spoke about how I mastered semen retention, because I seriously did. I have my urges, of course, but it's more urges for real intimacy with an actual woman that I actually could understand, as opposed to thinking about folding and looking at adult film content, or trying to buy a sex worker's time for a limited period of time and karmically condemning myself to this. And restarting and having to spend weeks and weeks for reconciliation. Guys, you have to look at it like this. I don't think you have to get to a point, right, where you understand deeply, and you're fearful of the penalties that come about with relapsing. When you guys get to that point, when you guys truly understand what's at stake, you guys are gonna not do that anymore. You're not gonna be interested in releasing anymore because, oh, well, not at least in those methods, because it's just you understand what happens afterwards. And it takes weeks to not only heal yourself, but it's to get your mind back on track to where it was before the relapse. It's a whole thing. And I don't have time to waste. I'm just not interested in wasting time, guys, seriously, especially during in those, the beginning weeks where you think everything is right post relapse, and then you have to sort of recalibrate your brain. You have to find the equilibrium points again. You have to go through life. You have to make sure that all the events that happen thereof, you're absorbing them the correct way. Of course, your filter is going to be messed up because you're not on semen retention. And it's a whole thing. I'm telling you guys, it's a whole thing. So that's not the topic of the video. That's not the topic of the video. The video topic is what to do or how to live your life, especially when you're on semen retention. You're not chasing that dopamine release constantly. You're not chasing the highs and lows, but rather you are sort of taking the Buddha path, the middle way. And so you are, you enjoy your highs and then you cruise through the lows. Recently, nothing really spectacular has been going on in my life. I have not really, for the most part, I think yesterday there was this girl I met in the supermarket, but I just wasn't interested. It's just, we were chatting. I just realized she doesn't really know much about travel, about the world. She just knows about the United States. I spoke to her about Eastern Europe. She doesn't know anything about Eastern Europe. She doesn't. What's going on, man? Thank you, sir. You think so? Thank you. Thanks a lot. But yeah, she didn't know anything about Eastern Europe. I'm asking, she went to Portugal for the first time a couple weeks ago, and she went for like this Afro festival. Of course, for the excited African Americans that are listening to this, it's okay. Maybe she likes dark-skinned guys. And that shouldn't be, by the way, an entry point or something to be excited about. When you hear that someone that's a topic for another conversation, by the way. We're not going to get into that right now. The point is that she didn't know much about a lot of things. Dead serious. And she's Italian American. I was just like, this is not, of course I was putting a lot into the conversation because I just have all these experiences, but she didn't know a lot. And it's just, I wasn't interested at all. And I just finished the conversation and went about my business. But it was though events like that are cool because they, it's like a rise and then a fall. It's like it's like a high for a little bit because you're talking to someone. But for the most part, it's been very, very monotonous. And just to not go everywhere in this video, I'm gonna try to reel in just some things that you can do, some tips of what you guys could do when you guys are on your personal practices of semen retention and you reach these points where life just seems very, very mundane and very normal and very simple. Like I'm gonna tell you what you could do. Number one, you have to be very, very open. Expose yourself to the flow of life. I say this in all my videos. I've been saying this for months. Seriously, expose yourself to the flow of life. Get into social spaces, speak to people, listen to them much, much more than you speak. Understand where they're coming from. People are very, very excited to share things about their lives, and just listen to them. Just do that. Like with the situation yesterday, it was very interesting listening to her talk about, the Afro Festival in Lisbon and all that stuff. And it was cool, hearing just how she viewed Western Europe, being a first-time traveler to that part of the world. I thought it was pretty interesting, it's not like I didn't have the interest as like a teacher would to a kindergartner when they find out about how dynamic and how open world Connects is or Legos are or Playmobil is. But I was just like, this is interesting. I remember when I had those that same wide-eyed appreciation for Western Europe. Things change now, of course. But that's what I'm saying. Open yourselves up, try to talk to people, listen to what they got to say, and give your feedback. Don't be so excited to share your story. Listen to other people. That's really what it is. A lot of people tend to walk around in the world, by themselves, alone with their own thoughts. A lot of people live on their own. Maybe they live with roommates, but then the worst, the most, they still feel loneliness because they're in close proximity with people that don't really want to talk to them. And when they speak to them, they don't really listen to them. So it's good to open an ear and listen to what people have to say, because it doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't hurt anyone, seriously. So there's that. Also, you have to be active. You have to be physically active. There are going to be, I can imagine, months into your streaks, right, for the very, very small, diminutive amount of people that have reached that point. And then you're beginning a new week. It's like Monday, and you realize that everything is just so slow. There's nothing interesting that's gauged to happen for the week. You look at the forecast, it's going to be overcast for the duration of the week. You go outside, nothing is really happening. People are going about their businesses, their respective responsibilities, going to work, going to go pick up their children from pre-K, going to go find a new parking space, going to run to go find someone to date. That's not necessarily interesting, but they just gave them attention at a certain moment. And so they chuck it up to some sort of divine providence that this person was placed in their path. And so they acquiesce to go out with this person. That's not very interesting. This is life. And I think that when you're far on your personal streaks, you realize this sort of perpetual paradigm of behaviors and events. And it makes you sort of jaded. You got to get active. Go into the gym. If you're not even a gym goer, do some calisthenics, do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, do some plank holds, do some pull-ups, whatever, dips. Do whatever you can to stay active, to stay alive. Because I'm telling you, the motions of the world, the directions of the events of the world, and the majority frequency thereof, which is sort of low and not very interesting and not very lively, not very energetic, it will bring you down. It will try to bring you down. So you got to stay active. You got to stay alive. You got to stay active. Be open to these people. Listen to what they got to say. People got a lot of stories, just listen to what they got to say. So we got those 2 points. And another thing that I tend to do also is find ways to stay grounded. A lot of us get run, especially on this semen retention journey. Sometimes, like some weeks, like I said, you're going to feel like no energy. You're going to feel sort of melancholic, lazy, really sluggish. And then on other weeks, you're going to feel very, very excited, very happy, very interested in doing things, talking to certain people. And it's good to go with the flow, but also there is a lot of truth and a lot of power with staying grounded with your routines. You have to, an individual's routine, especially on this practice of semen retention, makes and breaks the individual. If you're not grounded and you sort of go with the flow of life, you make a decision and then 10 minutes later you change that decision because you feel differently after the 10 minutes have passed. You're not very grounded, and you're sort of subject not only to the ebbs and flows of the emotional body of the self, but then also the very, very low nadirs and high summits and zeniths of the flow of the events of the day, of the respective days in life. You have to have some groundedness. Be able to observe what the heck is going on around you and within yourself, and make a choice to be staunch and still in those moments. Sometimes there'll be a call to action, and you'll need to tap into that zenith of the self, the emotional zenith of the self, in order to take advantage of that call to action. And so do that, but you have to be at a state where you're grounded so you can be able to observe what the heck is going on around you. That's really what it is. And so I'm just going to leave you guys with those 3 points, because I think that it's super important, and that helps with being good in life, being successful, especially in this practice of semen retention, where there's a lot of lows, man. There's a lot, not lows, but a lot of flat lines and a lot of what's the word? I'm trying to find this word. I can't really find it. It's just mundane stream of life. You have to ground yourself. How I've been feeling, I'll tie it in. How I've been feeling is I've been feeling that a lot of these days have been really mundane. I've, like I said, been on the practice of semen retention on this current streak for a little bit, for a while. And it's just, I feel like I look at life like this. I feel like the events of the days, right? Of course, they have like a very cumulative feature where the events of the day sort of add up to some sort of some sort of event that'll happen that will make sense of a lot of the mundane events that happen from day to day, for sure. I also think of these events, or the unfolding of these grand events of life, these cumulative events, sort of like the universe, and how the universe is constantly expanding. Once upon a time, when I wasn't really on the practice of semen retention, or I wasn't really doing it correctly, I wasn't really aware of a lot of the subtle nuances and changes that happen in the space in life. Now, on this current streak, I feel like I'm very, very astute and observant of what the heck is really going on. Dead serious. A lot of the events that happen, a lot of the small little accidents that seem to happen, people tripping here, or a word is slipped in a conversation there. I internalize all of these little events, and I sort of put it towards a lot of these different predictions that I have for how life is going to unfold. Yes, granted, of course, people might say that, Sombra, you're doing too much, but this is just how my brain is naturally operating, especially since it's accelerated by a lot of the energy that's retained through the practice of semen retention. Seriously, I feel like I'm just right there with life and the events as they're unfolding day to day, and I'm prepared. I have my emotional stillness and maturity. I have my observance. And I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm doing what I need to do, but I'm also waiting, and I'm aware. I'm active. And so we have a lot of mundane periods that, especially like this week, I feel like nothing's going to happen, really. But I'm still aware. I'm still ready, and I'm still on guard for whatever may come about. I'm taking the whole Bruce Lee approach to life, which is being like water and just flowing with life, and seeking to crash down in certain moments, so on and so forth. So I don't know. I think that these strategies could really help you guys, to be honest, with staying grounded and just staying on top of things on those low points, or sort of flat, mundane points in your personal practices of semen retention and in life. So if you guys enjoy that kind of content, like, comment, subscribe, share the video with some peers. Listen, don't ever let this place get you down. Life is not really just as people perceive life to be, where it's just a lot of exciting points and a lot of low points. It's really, there are a lot of periods where it's just standard, just things are just going straight. Nothing really special is happening. And it's in these moments where you need to stay grounded. You shouldn't seek dopamine release. You should just try to understand a lot more about yourself and your reflexive behaviors in dealing with the perception of these low and flat points. Right? Stay radiant, you guys. I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Woo!